Arguably the key to this entire off-season is finding a 3-tech for this defense. Ryan Poles has a massive checklist of things he has to do this off-season: fixing the offensive line, adding pass rushers, and potentially 10 or more starters in just one off-season. However, the key to Matt Eberflus's defense is having a 3 technique that can beat one-on-ones and pressure opposing QBs up the middle. So far, that player is not on this roster. Justin Jones was not a bad player, but he's better as a rotational defensive lineman and not the guy on this defensive line. I believe there are quite a few options when it comes to this NFL draft, though. We didn't land any of the big name 3-techs in free agency, but it is now draft week, and the options there are plentiful. My top 2 free agent wishes were Daron Payne and Draymond Jones. We missed out on both of those guys, but we did bring in DeMarcus Walker and Rasheem Green. Both guys can play some 3-tech. There's also a chance the team could trade for a 3-tech like Buffalo's Ed Oliver. I don't like to get into trade rumors though, and I believe the most realistic way of fixing this position is by taking advantage of the variety of exciting defensive line prospects in this year's upcoming draft. Ideally, if you add a 3-tech like Northwestern's Adebawore or Wisconsin's Keanu Benton, they could play the 3-tech position, and Andrew Billings would play the nose tackle spot, and our entire defensive line would suddenly go from a weakness to at least average. I think adding another guy or potential nose tackle would be great as well, but today I'm focused on the 3-tech position, the key to Eberflus's defense. I want to talk briefly about the players who stand out to me in the NFL draft as potential fits. Let's get right into it. I started off with just my top 10 3-techs in the draft, but I ended up with 15 players or so that would upgrade the 3-tech position to me. I have them listed in the order that they are supposed to be drafted. This is not my ranking, just talking a bit about the guys I feel are best fits to come in and fill that spot at the 3-tech position. I think we should easily be able to get at least one of these guys in the second round if we don't address the position in the first round, which is also likely. Let's get right into it. First up is Jalen Carter. What more can be said about this guy? I'm going to keep it simple. To me, he's the best player in the entire draft. He's also the best defensive tackle to come out since Quinnen Williams. He's the closest thing to a generational prospect in this year's class. If he ends up being a Bear, don't question it. Next up, I want to mention Tyree Wilson and Lucas Van Ness. They are both blue chip edge prospects that in my opinion could also fit as long-term 3-tech options. To me, they're both edge rushers, but they're good enough to be moved at 3-tech as well, so I just wanted to mention them. Then we get to Bryan Bresee, an athletic freak who never lived up to his potential at Clemson due to injuries. He has an awesome story, and I think he profiles as a perfect 3-tech. He hasn't been talked about to the Bears much, but don't rule this guy out. The next guy I want to talk about is Kalijah Cansey. He's undersized and doesn't have the arm length, but he's incredibly quick, gets underneath offensive linemen's pads, and specializes in wrecking havoc in the backfield, which is what Eberflus wants his 3-tech to do. I'm torn on Cansey. I absolutely love his tape. Just like Skoronski, I don't know if he has enough length for Eberflus and Poles, but I think he could be a good fit. Outside of the first round, there are a lot of intriguing options as well. One guy I was amazed by at the Senior Bowl was Northwestern's defensive lineman Adetomiwa Adebawore. He has the length, power, size, speed, and athleticism to play anywhere on the defensive line, but he profiles as a perfect 3-tech in this defense. Adebawore had one of the best combines for a 280-plus lineman in NFL history. His athleticism and upside is off the charts. I love this dude. He's not a perfect prospect, but he's a guy I want in Chicago. Speaking of athletic freaks, we can't talk about guys with crazy athleticism without mentioning Bruce Feldman's #1 freak from this draft class, Mozzie Smith. People 337 pounds shouldn't have the burst or agility that Mozzie has. He is the definition of a freak. He's also probably the strongest player in the entire draft. I think this guy will be a star in the NFL. I also think he's athletic enough to play nose tackle or 3-tech. I probably would prefer him at the nose next to a better 3, but there's no way I would say he can't play 3-tech. And then we get to Keion White. He was another one of the players that I fell in love with at the Senior Bowl. His stock is skyrocketing. He's actually one of the 15 or so guys who will be in attendance in the NFL green room at the draft. So it seems his stock has firmly risen to first round status, making it less likely we come away with one of my favorite 3-tech options. This is just another reason why I hope Poles moves around the board. There's too many players in that 15 to 50 range that I really like. The next guy I want to talk about is Tuli Tuipulotu. He's a tough prospect for me to get a read on. He seems like a tweener between edge and defensive tackle. To me, I think he could come inside and be an effective 3-tech. I'm actually lower than Tuli than the consensus, but I do see a lot of traits that I like. Tuli isn't one of my favorite options, but I admittedly need to watch more tape on this guy, and if we do draft him, I will. Then we get to a guy I really like, Keanu Benton from Wisconsin. Most people project him to be a 1-tech or a nose tackle due to his power. I, however, believe he has the athleticism, burst, and length to play either spot for the Bears and would be a great 3-tech. I actually feel the same way about Florida's Gervin Dexter Sr. as well. I have Benton and Dexter rated very similarly, and I think both fit as potential 3-tech options. I would be happy with either guy. They both project as day 2 picks in my opinion. I have Keanu Benton rated higher, but if one of them falls, they would become an awesome value. Speaking of value, a guy that's getting overlooked as an option at 3-tech is Bowling Green's Carl Brooks. He has the size and athleticism to be a sneaky good fit. He's a guy that shows this 3-tech position has more talent than most draft analysts will lead you to believe. He's one of a number of guys listed as edge rushers who would fit perfectly as 3-techs in Eberflus's defense, along with Adebawore and Keion White as others. And then we get to Zach Pickens, another guy getting overlooked a bit. He has a chance to fall to day 3, but he could be a good late day 2 pick as well. Two other fits that I have to mention are Oklahoma's Jalen Redmond and Texas's Moro Ojomo. Both players are good fits at 3-tech to me. I loved what I saw from Ojomo at the Shrine Bowl, and Jalen Redmond is another guy I probably haven't studied enough. His athleticism and size fit what Poles looks for. He's another guy to watch out for. And then my final guy is a deep sleeper discovered by my guy Jordan Silvera, Desjuan Johnson out of Toledo. He is an option late in the draft who we should be able to land on day 3 if we don't land a 3-tech earlier or want another option. Today's idea wasn't to dig deep into these players, just to give you guys a sense of how many potential options we have at the 3-tech position in this year's draft. It's not quite as deep as cornerback or defensive end, but there's plenty of talent at the 3-tech position. Ryan Poles should be able to upgrade the position whether he attacks it on day 1, day 2, or even if he waits until day 3. This NFL draft class is historically deep at defensive end and cornerback. It's also very deep at tight end, running back, defensive tackle, and even wide receiver. The offensive line class isn't quite as deep, but it has some good talent as well. Linebacker and safety are not very good classes. The wide receiver class is lacking top-end talent, but it is deep. It is officially NFL draft week, though. We don't have to wait much longer. It's almost here. I'll be here breaking it down every step of the way. Catch me live on Thursday night. Please remember to hit that like button for me. And until next time, bear down.